Welcome back, everyone. It's the first episode of 2022. We're back with a new card. It's going to be UFC Vegas 46, of course. That is going to be Calvin Kattar, and Giga Chikadze. Very exciting card. It's a small card, though, so I guess we'll be having a fairly short show today. I mean, in terms of what we've been doing recently, we're not gonna be here for an hour this time. Maybe just 40 minutes or so. Okay, we'll start off with the main card. As always, because we've got nothing to talk about. Nothing happened, of course. We haven't been here for like 3 weeks or a month. So we're opening with Joe Anderson, Brito, and Bill Algeo. And I think I actually had mentioned Brito before. We're opening up here with Brito, who is brand new to the UFC. He was on the Contender series just in, I believe it was November. I think I talked about him then because of the ridiculous eye pokes. We'll get into that in a little bit. Well, oh yeah, no, actually no, we're gonna talk about it right now. He did look very good, but he won by technical decision, and it was because of those eye pokes. Terrible, terrible eye pokes. I mean, if it ends the fight, it was a bad eye poke, and he did it about, I think, 3, maybe 4 times. So I mean, I've talked about this on this show before, how eye pokes are really completely, like, there's literally no excuse for it really at all. You should always have your fist closed the whole time. Like, I just don't. It's the only foul that I can think of that really could not be accidental. Like, there's certain fighters that you will never ever see get an eye poke at all, and it's because if you're doing things properly, it's just never going to happen. Anyway, so for it to happen 3 or 4 times, I didn't think he was going to get the contract, but that's also how good he was before that. He was so good in the fight that he kind of deserved the contract. I totally see it. On the other hand, Algeo, he's 1-2 in his UFC career so far, with a win over Spike Carlisle, who, if you've been paying attention to the MMA world, he left the UFC and then he went actually over to Bellator. I think he actually did win his fight there, but still, I mean, when your only win is against somebody that isn't in the UFC anymore, it doesn't look great. Also, Algeo is 6 years older. He has a bit of he has a 2-inch reach advantage. I mean, but he's 6 years older, and then the record, and then, I'm not a fan of Brito's eye pokes, obviously, but he did look very, very, very good. So to me, I feel like this is a fairly easy one to make. You never know, though. But yeah, I'm going with Brito on this. As long as he doesn't get any terrible eye pokes, get some points deducted. There's always that. But if he can stay clean, I think he's going to win this one fairly easily. But that being said, Algeo has never been finished in the UFC. Maybe Brito can break that streak and get a finish, maybe even on the ground, because he's very good on the ground. But I think we're probably seeing a decision here, and we're seeing it for Brito. If we look at the odds, where's my bet 99? There it is, right on the bottom of the screen there. If we go over to bet 99 and look at the odds, let's see where we are here. Minus 137 for Brito, plus 110 for Algeo. I think that's pretty fair, because I mean, Brito is brand new. Algeo has been here for a few fights, even though he hasn't really done that well. So I feel like the odds are fair in that. And you know what? Excuse me. Because it's at minus 137, I think it's a fairly clear win. Those are great odds to put some money on. Maybe even actually make a parlay even sweeter. That might be nice. And they've got the over 2.5 rounds at minus 158, under 2.5 at plus 122. I think that's fair because, again, Algeo has never been finished in the UFC and Brito's brand new to the UFC. So I think that's pretty fair. You could throw some money on the under, maybe, if you're thinking maybe Brito can use that skill to get it, but I don't know. I might stay away from that one. But great odds with the minus 137 for Brito there. After that, we've got some big boys, some two heavyweights. We've got Chase Sherman, Jake Collier. After a promising start in the UFC in his UFC career with a second round win, Sherman is on a 2-fight losing streak now. It's been a couple of decision losses, one to Arlovsky, one to Parker Porter last year. Those are two pretty good guys. I mean, Parker Porter, a little bit on the lower end, but he is very good. Arlovsky, I mean, Arlovsky is Arlovsky. That makes sense. Jake Collier, on the other hand, has been in the UFC since 2014, has a record of 4-5 here. Not great. The most recent one was a split decision loss to Carlos Felipe, actually. And Carlos Felipe has been pretty good. And a split decision loss, those are the shakiest. You never know. It really could have gone either way on that one. So, on paper, to me, this is dead even. They have a similar reach, similar age. The only difference, really, physically at least, is that Collier tends to come in a little bit heavier than Sherman most of the time. I mean, we never know until the day. Maybe they're going to be a similar weight. We don't know until then. But generally speaking, Sherman comes in a little bit lighter. And so, I mean, because this is similar to most heavyweight fights, but I think it's really who's going to land the biggest shot first. And again, that's really what it comes down to a lot in heavyweight. And it's no difference here. Sherman will likely have the speed advantage because he is a little smaller or lighter, I should say, and could win by decision. But because Collier lost by split decision to Felipe, I think he's got the skill, I think he's got the power, and I think he's got the chin, because Felipe hits pretty hard, to beat Sherman. Again, keep in mind, as always, for the heavyweights, literally everything can change with just one punch. So this really could go either way. But because of everything I just said, I'm leaning towards Collier. But you could really go either way on this one. I wouldn't be upset either way. Let's see what we got here for the odds. The odds see it the same way, really. Plus 110 for Sherman. Collier is at minus 134. It's probably, like I said, because of that the two losses in a row for Sherman. And Collier has the experience. So, it does make sense, but it's so close. I mean, it's heavyweight. It could really go either way. So even just because we're talking about heavyweights, you could even throw a little bit on the underdog, maybe try and get lucky there. The over-under on this is actually pretty interesting for heavyweights. They've got minus 172 for over 2.5, plus 133 for under. I did say it was probably going to a decision. Oh, actually, no. I'm going to say it's being by finish because they're heavyweights and they're both huge. So I think it might actually be a pretty good idea to take the under on this one. But, they've been in a lot of decisions. But, when you see a heavyweight matchup at plus 133 for under 2.5, might be a good idea to throw even just a little bit on that. Sprinkle a little bit of something on there, because heavyweights, that doesn't normally happen. So, play the odds there. The odds are in your favor in that one. Excuse me. After that, the flyweights, two top flyweights here. You've got Brandon Royval, who's ranked 5th, and on the other side, you've got Bontorin. Bontorin actually fought in bantamweight in his last fight, but he is usually in flyweight, and he's still ranked at flyweight. He's ranked 7th right now. Royval, he's on a 2-fight losing streak, but you also got to remember the fact that those 2 losses were against the current champ, Moreno, and the number 3 ranked Pantoja. So like those are two pretty good guys. So, you know, as for Bontorin, he won his fight at bantamweight, but he lost to Kai Kara France and Ray Borg before that. Kai Kara France has been pretty good recently, but it's not really the same level as fighting Pantoja or Brandon Moreno. Definitely not for Ray Borg. Kai Kara France is something, Ray Borg, not so much. So, I think it's going to be a tightly contested fight. We're talking about flyweights here. I mean, they're so good. They're so quick. You could see anything happen, and it's always really close because it's hard to knock somebody out or even finish anybody in the flyweight division. It doesn't happen a whole lot. You see a lot of decisions. So, when that happens, it could really go either way. Excuse me. But yeah, I do see it being very close. And although Royval lost his last two, like I said, it was against the best people in the division. He also has a 3-inch reach advantage, which probably would help a little bit when you're talking about the little guys. Like, most of these guys are only 5'7". So, 5'7", 5'8". So when you got an extra 3 inches, that's, that's definitely is better than, that's not much at heavyweight or middleweight or anything like that. But at flyweight, that's something. And since Royval is an expert on the ground, we could actually see a submission win here. But Bontorin is actually also very good on the ground. Usually when two people are really good on the ground, tends to mean a stand-up fight. But Royval is so good, you actually could see him get a submission here. But I think more likely we're probably going to see a decision win because I think Royval is just that extra step ahead. So yeah, I'm saying Royval by decision here. And if you look at the odds, very interesting. They go definitely in favor of Royval. I mean, again, that makes a lot of sense. Minus 172 for Royval here. Bontorin plus 140. That's a pretty good one to actually throw in a parlay, even minus 172. Because normally, as I've mentioned quite a few times, I really only pick odds that are in the 200s, 300s for the parlays. Because, I'm not saying you're guaranteed to get it, but you're way more likely to get it. But interesting, there's only one fight on this entire card that has somebody at over 200 on something, and that is actually in the main event, which we'll talk about later. Very interesting odds. It could be because, yeah, there's a lot of close matchups here, but I also think it could be because there's been such a long layoff. Maybe we just haven't, I don't know, people aren't used to betting anymore. I don't know. Weird odds. But anyway, back to Royval Bontorin. So Royval's minus 172. Pretty good for a parlay, I would say. And the over-under is what's very interesting to me. They're saying that over is actually plus 150. This is similar to what I said in the heavyweights. Very rare for flyweights to be over. It's rare for heavyweights to be under, but it's also, well, that's the opposite. It's very rare for the heavyweights to be over the 2.5, but it's very rare for the flyweights to be under 2.5. So two very interesting betting lines there. I'll probably be putting some money on this one. Plus 150 for over 2.5 for flyweights. That is very good. Even just playing those odds, you've got a great chance of getting a couple bucks here. The under is minus 193. There's no way that I could that confidently in the odds say that they're going to be going, is that somebody's getting finished here. I don't know. Yeah, we could see a decision, but to say it's a minus 193, I don't think so. I'm throwing money at the over on that one. After that, the co-main event. It's the first big women's matchup of the year. It is Katlyn. I still don't know if it's Katlyn Chookagian or Katlyn Chookagian. I think it's Katlyn just based on how it's spelled, but I don't know. Katlyn Chookagian, Jennifer Maia in the co-main. Number 2 contender Chookagian. Number 4 contender Maia in the flyweight division. Chookagian, if you've been watching it all, you might not recognize the name if you don't watch it all, but she's been amazing the past couple of years. She's got wins over Calvillo, Araujo, and actually over her current opponent, Jennifer Maia. So, and really her only losses in the past few years have come to the champ, Shevchenko, and the number one contender, Jessica Andrade. So, and I mean, both of them are obvious. I mean, Shevchenko is obviously incredible, but Jessica Andrade is also very, very good. So, you know, those are two pretty fair losses, especially in that division. You know, if you're losing in any women's division really a lot, that's a big yikes. But if it's to those two, you know, you can get a pass on that one. And as for Jennifer Maia, she's also been fairly impressive over the past few years since that loss that I was talking about. She's got wins over Jessica Ai, Joanne Wood, and of course, like I said, the loss to Chu Kagan. She also made it to the final bell with Shevchenko, actually, which obviously very impressive to do that. So that's saying quite a bit, really. But when two people have fought before, and it was 2 years ago, like I said, you kind of have to take that. You have to take that into consideration quite a bit, I would say. You know, Chookagian won by unanimous decision. Like I said, this was just over a couple of years ago. So if you're trying to be a safe better here, it seems likely that Chookagian would edge ahead once again. And Chookagian's just gotten better recently, you know. And I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from what Maia did with Shevchenko, but I did watch that and I was kind of like, it didn't really seem like normal Shevchenko. And she even kind of said that she was trying something new. And then she went back to doing what she normally does after that fight. So, you know, I'm not trying to take away from that, but it is kind of like, okay, well, you know, if Shevchenko was just kind of fucking around, like, you never know. And that's basically why it ended up going to the final bell. But anyway, you know, I think this is dead even, but because, like I said, Chookagian won the last matchup, you have to remember that. Unless they've done something crazy since then, you got to take that into consideration. And Maia hasn't done anything insane, and Chookagian seems to be just as good. So I'm going Chookagian by decision here. And if you're going with the odds, it's pretty obvious what's going on here, especially in the over-under. Chookagian minus 184. Jennifer Maia plus 145. Obviously, you know, people looked up who won the last time, which is Chookagian. Also, they're looking at the numbers. Chookagian's the 2 contender. Maia's number 4. Everything just leans towards Chookagian on this one. Oh yeah, I was even thinking she also has a slight reach advantage over Maia, and that's probably why she had a little bit better chance last time. You know, this again though, this could actually be a great chance because it is so close to bet on an underdog, throw a couple bucks that way. But the safe bet is Chookagian, you know. And the over under, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like the over is at minus 375. So I mean, that's really a golden opportunity for a parlay there because I can't really see either one of them getting a finish either. So you might want to throw that in a parlay at minus 375. The under in this case is plus 275. Now, on to the main event. Calvin Kattar, Giga Chikadze. It's going to be a real good one. I'm excited for this one. It's a really interesting matchup, especially since which is really what we've seen over the past year, really. Calvin Kattar, his last fight was, of course, he was on the wrong side of it, but it was one of the greatest performances anybody's ever had in the UFC. Everybody's seen the clips of Holloway talking, saying he's the best boxer in the UFC, not even looking, the no-look 3-piece and a soda, and just piecing apart Calvin Kattar, just tore his face to shreds, got a record, broke a couple records that night. So, I mean, not necessarily the best fight for Calvin Kattar in his last one, but before that, he's been pretty solid, honestly. I mean, he had just beaten two impressive strikers, Dan Ige, Jeremy Stevens. He had one loss to the pretty dangerous, even though he hasn't been around recently, Zabit. He hasn't been around recently, but that was the last person before Holloway, I should say, to beat Kattar. But you're talking about Dagestani wrestlers, and that's something completely different. These are two strikers. Again, Calvin Kattar is a boxer, Giga Chikadze, a kickboxer, and a very, very good one at that. So, I don't think we're talking about wrestling here as much. As for Giga, there's a reason he's got a lot of hype behind his name now, or at least he's starting to get a lot of hype behind his name now. He is 7-0 in the UFC with recent wins, of course, over Barboza in his last one, which was just a couple months ago. Amazing win. And then Cub Swanson before that, which was crazy. He used his classic Giga kick to get a body kick KO finish, which does not normally happen. It was crazy to watch. It was in the first round too. Crazy. Anyway, so on paper, I think this is a pretty tight one, but it's not. I don't think it's really as close as it seems on paper. Kattar is a very impressive boxer, but Holloway showed that you really need more than boxing to be in the UFC, to be at least at the top of the UFC like that. You need a variety of strikes because that's of course what Holloway is all about. He can do everything in striking. So as a kickboxer then, and again, well known for the Giga kick, which I think he's gotten 2, maybe 3 finishes with that in the UFC, plus a head kick in there. I mean, he's well known for his kicks. So, he's just on that next level, I would say, especially since what he did with Barboza, because Barboza is also one of the best strikers, pretty similar actually to Calvin Kattar. I would say Barboza might even actually be a slightly better striker than Calvin Kattar possibly. But anyway, so what Giga did was he just overwhelmed him the whole time and got the win like that. So, I mean, if he can overwhelm Barboza, nobody really does that to Barboza. So the fact that he can do that and withstand all of Barboza's offense to show he's got a great chin, there's a lot leaning towards Chikadze here. I don't think that we're going to be seeing a finish here, I will say. Probably, because again, I mean, Calvin Kattar took 5 whole rounds of ridiculous punishment from Holloway. So can Giga finish him? I'm not quite sure. I'm really leaning towards the decision here, but yeah, that's my fairly obvious choice here is Chikadze. Not that Calvin Kattar doesn't have a chance. I just think there's so much. Well, that's weird. Okay. There's so much leaning towards Giga on this one. You got to go with Giga. He's just so much more well-rounded. Even in the wrestling, actually, I was going to mention that too, because he used a little bit of wrestling against Barboza too, which, he's not necessarily known for that. But again, when you're talking about two strikers, who has a slight advantage in clinch and wrestling, that's also Giga. So there's just everything's leaning towards Giga on this one. So yeah, that is for sure the way I'm going on this one. And if you look at the odds, this is the only fight on the entire card actually that's got somebody in the 200 range. Calvin Kattar's at plus 190, Giga Chikadze minus 250. I'm not sure if I would say that it's that one-sided, but it does make a lot of sense. Again, remember, he's unbeaten in the UFC and he's been doing really, really well in his recent fights. So, and of course, Calvin Kattar coming off of that Holloway loss, hasn't fought since January of last year. It's actually been almost exactly a year, I think. What did I write down? Oh yeah, it was almost exactly a year today. Anyway, beside the point. What's very interesting though is they've got the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. Remember, this is a 5-round fight. This is the main event. So, and even crazier, actually. Well, actually, no, never mind. I thought they had it reversed here. But minus 172 for the over, plus 133 for the under. Yeah, I would even throw that into a parlay. Minus 172 for over 2.5 for a 5-rounder between featherweights, and Kattar didn't get finished by Holloway. That's just begging. That's just begging to be taken advantage of. Yeah. Definitely throw that in the parlay. Even do just a single fight parlay. Do it Chikadze over. And then you could even do one for a KO, one for a decision. Maybe even do that. I've done that. I do that all the time, actually. But yeah, this would be a perfect opportunity to do that. And that is it for the main event. I think we'll take a tiny bit of a break, and then we'll come back and talk about. Actually, no, why would I do that? There's only 2 prelims I want to talk about. Never mind. No break. We're pushing through. Back with the odds. We'll take a break when we're dead. JK. We'll take a break when we're done here. The prelims. There's a couple of very good looking prelims. The first one I want to talk about, and honestly, I really thought that this would be on the main event. It's such a great looking fight. I really can't believe that this is not in the main card. You've got Brian Kelleher, Saidyokub, Kakhramonov. I won't be saying that name too much because it's ridiculous. But yeah, we've got those two. Brian Kelleher, always exciting. Really, this is one of the most exciting matchups on the whole card. I mean, to me, it goes the main event. Then you've got, then you got Royval. I think that's in second. Maybe Chu Kagan in third, fourth. And then you've got this fight. I think that's in top 3 exciting fights for the night. Very exciting fight here. You don't want to miss this one. What was I going to say here? He's always brought the excitement. He hasn't necessarily always been on the right side of the fight, but he's always exciting. Since the start of 2020, he has fought 6 times with a 4-2 record, which is pretty good. And those 2 losses were to Cody Stamann, Ricky Simone, both of whom, Ricky Simone just got into the rankings. Cody Stamann actually just fell out of the rankings. I don't think he actually lost. He was just like 14th, 15th, and then he was pushed out basically when Simone came in. But anyway, they were both ranked. So, those are pretty fair losses to have. Anytime you lose to somebody ranked, it's like, okay, it's a different level when you get up to the rankings there. But he won all of those other 4 fights. And again, very, very exciting fights. And both of those losses were by decision. So it's not even like he got quickly finished or anything like that. He had close decision losses to 2 ranked fighters. So that's pretty good. And his last win was actually against Domingo Pilarte a couple months ago. As for Kakhramonov, he's only had 1 fight in the UFC so far. It was a 3rd-round submission over Trevin Jones just a few months ago. So, I mean, Kelleher obviously has the edge in experience, but when you're talking about the physical part of it, Kakhramonov likely has the edge here. He's 9 years younger, and has a 5-inch edge in reach. To me, this is actually a real toss-up. I think it's going to be a really close fight again. The experience is telling me that Kelleher will scrape through to get a decision win, but for some reason, I just think Kakhramonov has something very special about him. And as I mentioned, Brian tends to lose to people that have a little bit of something extra, that are going to be ranked or are ranked, and that's what I'm sensing. Oh, because not even did he, he lost to Ricky Simone, Cody Stamann, who were ranked or who are ranked, but he also lost to Montel Jackson before, who also has that kind of quality, and Marlon Chito Vera, who is also ranked. He wasn't ranked when he fought Kelleher, but you know what I mean? He was on his way to be ranked. So this is similar to what I had a couple weeks ago. I can't remember what fight it was, but where the person has, Sajara Eubanks. where the person has a problem fighting people who are going to be really good. So the question always then is the person going to be that good? Is Kakhramonov going to be somebody who is ranked? I think so. I really do. So I think it's going to be very close, but I'm leaning towards Kakhramonov by decision. And what's very interesting to me, the odds actually literally just changed as I was talking for this fight. Kelleher is at plus 130, Kakhramonov minus 160. So they have it fairly close, but there's actually a fair advantage here, a fair edge here, I should say, in the odds for Kakhramonov at minus 160. Very interesting indeed, especially considering he's only had one fight in the UFC. So I'll be saying this later in the article, but when it's like that, you might want to throw a little bit at the underdog Kelleher here. But I will say that I do kind of think the Kakhramonov is going to edge ahead here in a decision, maybe get a finish, but probably not. Yeah. And the over-under, dead even pretty much. Over 2.5 is minus 105. Under 2.5, minus 123. So they're saying literally could go either way here. Better's choice, I guess. I would go with probably the over. And that's very interesting that it's at minus 105 for over 2.5. I would have thought it would have been the other way around. So a good chance to make a little bit of money there. Because I'm seeing a decision here for sure. Because Kelleher is not a guy that you normally finish, and Kakhramonov is brand new. So pretty solid chance this is going to the over 2.5, minus 105. Great odds. Take advantage of that. I will be. The featured prelim of the night. It's the last one I'm going to talk about, and then we can all have dinner. Jamie Pickett, Joseph Holmes. Very interesting that this is actually the featured prelim. It's actually very strange because, like I said, I would have even thought that the one I just talked about actually could even be the featured prelim, if not on the main card. So really interesting that this is the featured prelim. Jamie Pickett, of course, we saw him a few months ago. And he was also on the Contender series. And Joseph Holmes, new to the UFC, and he was also on Dana White's Contender series. Now, of course, we talked about this, like I said, a couple months ago. Pickett had a rough start to the UFC, 2 losses to Tefon and Chukwi and Jordan Wright, but he kind of brought it back a little bit with a convincing win over Staropoli just a couple months ago. And like I said, Holmes, he's 6-1 in his MMA career, so hasn't really been in MMA that long. I think it was either boxing or kickboxing before that. I think it was kickboxing. And he had 4 wins last year, including one on the Contender series, which was in around, I think, November. So 4 wins in 1 year, that's pretty impressive, especially on the Contender series. That's good. But, experience difference. But this is another complete toss-up to me. It really is. Pickett looked good in his last one, but Holmes has that momentum, of course, because he won his last 4 in last year. Not only that, Holmes is 7 years younger. 7 years younger. Considering the inexperience of Holmes, it's possible that Pickett could really use that. He has ridiculous power, so he could really use that to get a finish. But we talked about this after he last fought, and he's always had this problem, and it's so frustrating to watch people like this. Woodley has had this recently too. He has a lot of power, but he doesn't use it. He can't use it, and it's crazy when you watch it. It's so frustrating to watch that he just can't use that power. And this late into his career, can he get over that? Can he overcome that and use his power? I don't know, but you kind of have to figure that this late in his career, he's probably not going to overcome that. So he could get a finish, but I don't think he will. And especially considering Holmes is this much younger, I think Holmes is going to edge ahead on the cards here. or even maybe get another early finish. He got a lot of early finishes last year. He might even get another one this year. I could see that. So I'm going Holmes by finish. I really am on this one. And if you look at the odds, where are my odds here? There we go. Plus 125 for Pickett, minus 150 for Holmes. So they're seeing what I saw too, 4 wins in 1 year. Pickett hasn't been that great recently. Honestly, if he would have lost his last fight, he probably would have been cut from the UFC. Not a good look. So, Holmes, obviously the safer bet here, even though he is brand new. And the over-under on this, very interesting. Over 1.5 rounds here, minus 175. Under 1.5, plus 136. I would go with the over here. I mean, 1.5 rounds. He could get another early finish, like I said, but I'm definitely not confident enough to bet the under on this one, even with plus 136 odds. So, the safe bet here for sure, going for minus 175 over 1.5 rounds. A lot of very interesting fights. I'm excited. The main event, the women in the co-main. Yeah, it's going to be a good night. Where's my thing here? Okay. So, of course, as always, Loki's ears just popped up there. What are you doing, boy? What are you doing? What was I gonna say? Oh, Area 51. They've got all of the other sports. I'm the UFC guy, or just the MMA guy in general, I guess. They've got all of the other sports on there. They've got you covered. If you want to follow me on anything, it's all below. I've got a lot of other stuff too. There we go. I've lost all my flow. I haven't done this in so long, I don't remember what I'm doing anymore. Where are we going here? Okay, and of course, we're partnered with Bet99, of course. So if you go to Bet99, I'll show you the slide at the end. If you go to the Area 51 network, follow the link over to Bet99, you get a bonus, some bonus money in there. Great stuff. Maybe you can even throw it in on some of the things that I was just talking about. I can't wait to see this. And of course, next week we'll be talking about UFC 270. Oh, the heavyweights gone. Ngannou. I can't believe it. It's going to be insane, but that's next week. We're done for this week. I told you it was going to be a little shorter, but we've got a longer one next week, so be prepared for that. I'm excited. I will see you next time.